Hi, welcome back to the Spirit's Path. This is Dee, and today's tarot card of the day out of the Wildwood Tarot deck is the Life Lessons card, Major Arcana of the Stag. Yeah, when I thought about this card today, I was like, okay, there's a protector coming. There's a, or we have to defend our position. All right, this is kind of like a justice card within this deck. And, the life lessons of what we've learned over here the last couple days have been enduring and taking on that challenge and just, staying positive with that ace of bows and ace of arrows that's out there. Okay, but this half human, half animal comes out of the forest holding the axe and holding the, holding a shield. So, he's some sort of defender, okay, of what's going on, or protector, however you want to look at it, right? But, with the Major Arcana, the way I like to look at it is, these are lessons that, we need to learn, okay? And he comes to us at a time where, okay, what is that lesson going to be? And, ever since we stepped off into this part of the Wildwood Forest as the Wanderer, we had that wheel with change and with fate and with destiny, okay? Change is always at hand. And this is another indication that there's change going on within us, within our environment, and within the world, okay? Because, one of the symbolisms of this card is the axe that he or she is holding, okay? Now, the axe is a representation of the human will to go ahead and change the environment, okay? To build things, to cut things down, to build whatever. All right, you can create carve into the soil, you can cut a tree down, all right, you can divert water with it, all of those things. So it's the ability to change the environment. And what the shield represents is that, it lets us know, and on the shield is the world tree, okay, both growing above ground and below ground. So you can see the roots, okay, of the history, all right, of the stability of that foundation that this tree has on the shield. And what that is that's a reminder to protect our natural resources. It's a reminder to look at our stability, to look at our security within, whatever frame you want to look at, emotions, thought processes, creativity, as well as just that solid foundation with stones. And we've had some of that, down here. Okay, I've got, the 2 arrows, which is, the 4 of arrows, which is resting, and the ace of arrows, the breath of life, plus the 2 of stones and the 5 of stones, which is, that challenge, and that, which we talked about, which is grounding energy, as well as the grounding energy with the 5 of stones from yesterday. So here that tree kind of, on the shield represents us to be grounded, but also, lets us know to be protected, okay, or to protect ourselves when we're grounding, making sure that we're stable and secure in our connection when we're meditating, or, making sure that we're, grounded correctly, as well as, looking at the resources that we're using and not going out of whack with our financial resources, our emotional resources, our creativity resources. Because eventually with justice, one reaps what one sows. So, to use that in a relationship context, let's say that you have an argument with somebody, all right, and you say something that is, off kilter or demeaning or something like that, and you don't really think that it really does any harm. Well, the person that took that message may look at it and become offended with it, you're not even realizing that they're offended with it. And later on down the road, they may throw a barb back at you that hits you emotionally. Okay, and you're like, where the heck did that come from? That was from days ago or weeks ago. Okay, so, when you're out there and you're reaping what you're sowing in a communication aspect, okay, that's logic, reasoning, air, energy. There has to be that balance, that give and take with, being friendly, being teasing, versus, not overdoing it. Right? And better than I do in your relationships how that can go about. You know where to push those boundaries, all right? And where those boundaries are affected on you. So, on a karmic level, or a personal level, it's how that karmic wheel of justice rules or concepts of right and wrong. Okay, and we can look at, all sorts of different, different situations and things on that, like, what's going on in the world. When you go to work, how what you sow is what you reap, right? If you're somebody that's sitting there on that project all the time and you're always making, those projects come out great, all right, and everything's moving forward and you continue to, do great work, that's the work that you're sowing. What you're going to reap down the road is better projects and hopefully better promotions, better pay raises based on the work that you're doing. All right, so there's some good coming out of that as well, as what I said, earlier with the relationships. So, that concept of doing what is right and doing, what is wrong, that karmic wheel always turns. And it's how you react to that, all right, and that's where the axe comes in, because we are responsible for our actions. If you cut down a tree, you should plant one, okay? If you end up, doing something with your garden or something like that, chances are you're going to replant whatever you took out. Hey, I'm taking weeds out, but I'm going to put flowers in, right? So we're responsible for our actions. Now, the one thing I always like to say is you can't step in the same river twice, because that river is always flowing. And that, that river of life that we live in our spiritual path is the same way. You can't go back and change what you said yesterday or what you did yesterday. Okay, but what you can do is look at that action that you did yesterday and make a mental note and say, you know what, I'm not going to cross that boundary. I'm not going to cross that line tomorrow when I'm doing those actions. All right, you learn from those actions. All right, and you then, if something does happen, you have to prepare for the consequences. You know what? Maybe I should have filled those tires up before I went on that trip. I wouldn't have had a flat tire. Now on your next trip that you're going out there that, hey, I'm going to put air in my tires and make sure my car is, ready to go on a long distance, trip, and make sure I don't have any issues. Oil's changed, tires are good, everything's running good. I did a checkup, blah, blah, blah. That way when you go on your trip, you're having a good time. You don't have to worry about that extra expense. But if you don't do that and you go out there with, flat tire and half empty tank of gas, and your engine doesn't have any oil in it, you get 100 miles down the road and something happens, that just puts your whole vacation in a bad spot. Negative energy, and just, now you're not having fun. So, you have to be aware of the consequences, all right, and understand that, as we move forward, this is what's going to happen. So the other thing that I like about this card too is it's telling me that something has transpired, okay? Because the stag comes out when change is at hand. And we've had some change down here, okay, on our spiritual path, right? That Ace of Bows and that Ace of Arrows, the two cards that are down here right now, giving us that new thought process and new creativity, all right? Those are changes. Changes within you, changes within your thought pattern, okay? That challenge that showed up the day after that, all right? The decisions that's around those challenges, those are changes. Something that you've mentally, physically, spiritually put out there, all right? That change is happening, and there's a realignment within you taking place on your spiritual path. And you have to endure some things. That storm is coming. And the stag is here to let you know what? I'm here with you during that storm. There may be an opportunity with that realignment to take it to a different level, to look at, how are you going to prepare for that storm, right? We talked about that yesterday. And while that's taking place, the stag's looking at you going, how is this affecting you? How is this new energy with the Ace of Bows and the Ace of Arrows affecting you? Okay, there may be a time to be more responsible with what's going on. Taking on that challenge of saying, you know what, I'm not going to get overwhelmed with work, or overwhelmed with somebody's drama, or overwhelmed with, a simple decision. I'm not going to let it put me in a paralysis analysis, all right? And when you do that, you become more wiser, and have more knowledge around those situations when it moves forward. And it's time now to welcome that justice, within, okay? to look at that fire of creation and that breath of life for those new ideas. Because that season now is here. Even though a storm is coming, you're preparing for whatever's coming down the road in creativity or thought process of stability. And when you do that and you face that with honesty and integrity and you trust the universe, then that stag doesn't have a lot of work to do. He can sit there and protect you. He doesn't have to use his axe to defend you. All right? Or if you take on that aspect of the stag, you're protecting yourself. You can let the change come, all right, and do so, with that, in an honest effort, and gain more integrity with your coworkers or gain more integrity with your family members. All right? And a lot of that is you're just trusting the universe, trusting spirit as you're moving forward. So that's today's card of the day out of the Wildwood Tarot deck, the Stag. Hit that like button for me, subscribe to the channel, share it with others, give me a thumbs up. And this is D for Spirit's Path. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Take care, God bless, and stay safe, everybody.